Okay, so are you ready to dive deep into AI today?
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. Because today we're going to be looking at, how we talk about AI and how the words we use can really shape how we think about artificial intelligence.
Instantly.
And we've got this really interesting source. It's called anthropomorphizing words.
Yeah.
And that's going to be kind of our guide for this deep dive.
Cool.
And, you might not think this is super important, like the words we use, but it's actually more important than you think.
It really is. Yeah.
So why don't we jump right in?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so this guide that we have, it flags words like thinking or knowing as potentially problematic when we talk about AI.
Yeah.
So can you help me out here a little bit? Why are those words kind of like red flags when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Well, when we say a human is thinking, right, it means something totally different than when a computer's doing something.
Right.
Like when we think about thinking, it suggests a consciousness, there's an awareness, there's an inner world of thoughts and feelings.
And do we have any evidence that AI has that kind of inner experience?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so when we use those words, we kind of run the risk of projecting our own human experiences onto something that's fundamentally different.
Right. It's like we're saying it's a person when it's not a person.
Exactly.
So, AI is doing a lot of amazing things. It's really impressive, but it's just about being precise with the words we use, right?
Yes, definitely.
For example, AI can process all this data, right?
Tons of data. Yeah.
And it can identify patterns and things that would take humans years and years to figure out. But does that really mean it's understanding the data in the same way that we understand it?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, really, at its core, it's about algorithms and data.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, what we can achieve with these algorithms.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
But it's important to remember that it's all based on math and code.
Right.
It's not this magical ability to think like a human does. Yeah, so if we're not really supposed to say an AI is thinking,
Yeah.
what are the words we should be using? What's a more accurate way to describe what's actually going on?
Well, our guide actually gives us some pretty helpful alternatives.
Okay.
So instead of saying an AI is thinking, we can say it's processing information.
Okay.
Or instead of saying it knows something, we can say that the algorithm identified a pattern in the data.
Right.
Or that it calculated a solution.
So processing or calculating.
Right.
Those words definitely seem a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, a little less. Yes.
It seems more like what's actually happening.
Yeah, it's not giving AI these fuzzy human qualities that it doesn't actually have.
Yeah, it's not a person with feelings.
Exactly.
It's just crunching numbers, basically.
Yeah, it's a very complex calculator in a lot of ways.
So, how much does this actually matter,
Oh, it matters a lot.
Really?
Think about the impact of headlines
Oh,
that say, AI predicts the stock market crash. Or AI creates award-winning artwork.
Yeah.
Those headlines really grab our attention.
Totally.
But they also imply this level of agency and intentionality that might not actually be there.
Right, it's making its own decisions.
Exactly.
But is it really?
Yeah, and that can lead to really unrealistic expectations about AI, what it can do right now and what it might be able to do in the future.
Right.
We don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, so it's if we just keep hearing all this stuff about AI thinking and creating,
Yeah.
we might actually start to believe that it's really close to becoming sentient.
Right. It's a slippery slope.
Or surpassing human intelligence.
Which might not happen.
Yeah.
And that can distort public perception and, fuel anxieties about AI taking over the world.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it kind of distracts us from the real ethical challenges that we need to be addressing.
What kind of ethical challenges?
Well, bias in algorithms.
Oh, yeah.
Or the potential for job displacement.
Oh, right, because what if robots take our jobs or something?
Exactly. Those are real issues we need to be thinking about.
Okay, so by using more precise language, we can have a more reasonable conversation about all this.
Exactly. It's about cutting through all the hype and focusing on what AI actually is,
right,
how it works, and what its limitations are.
Yeah, just being realistic.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have a question for everyone listening out there.
Okay.
So if we take away all the human-centric language, if we stop talking about AI it's this thinking, feeling being, does that change how you view AI?
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, does it make you more or less optimistic about the future of AI?
That's a great question.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
We'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Okay, so wrapping things up, the big takeaway here, I think, is the words we use matter.
Absolutely.
They shape how we think about and interact with artificial intelligence, maybe even more than we realize.
Totally. And here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
Next time you encounter discussions about AI, listen closely to the language being used.
Okay.
Does it accurately reflect what AI is actually doing? Or is it projecting human-like qualities onto a machine?
Right.
This simple awareness can help you navigate the complexities of the AI landscape more critically and effectively.
Really interesting food for thought. Thanks.
Absolutely.
All right. That's it for our deep dive today.
Awesome.
We'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so jumping right into this deep dive today, we're going to be looking at something that I think is pretty interesting.
Okay.
And, maybe a little bit more nuanced than people might think at first.
Right.
We're talking about the language that we use to describe artificial intelligence.
Oh, interesting.
So you shared this document with me. It's kind of like a style guide.
Okay.
For, how to talk about AI.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really struck me about it was that it had these two lists, right?
Yeah.
It had words to use and words to avoid.
Interesting.
When you're talking about artificial intelligence. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting because it made me realize how much the language that we use really shapes the way we think about this whole AI thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we often use words that kind of almost humanize AI without even realizing it.
Right.
And this document that we're going to be looking at today, it kind of shines a light on those choices that we make.
Yeah, and it's like, just reading through these lists is like, oh, watch out for words like, thinking or feeling when you're talking about AI.
Yeah.
Like we're so used to associating those words with human intelligence.
Of course.
That we just like slap them onto AI even if it's not accurate.
Exactly. And that's where it gets a little dangerous.
Yeah.
A word like smart, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, we say, oh, this AI is so smart.
Yeah.
But smart implies this kind of general intelligence that AI just doesn't have yet.
Yeah, it's like, calling a calculator smart.
Right.
Just because it can solve complex equations.
Exactly.
It's impressive, but it's not smart in the way that
exactly
we usually understand it.
Exactly. So this document kind of steers us more towards using words like processing or calculating.
Okay.
It's more precise because it focuses on what the AI is actually doing, like a specific task.
Right.
As opposed to this vague notion of general intelligence.
So instead of saying, the AI figured out my password,
right,
which makes it sound like some, mastermind is back there cracking codes.
Right.
We should say something like, the AI processed a massive data set and was able to, generate a matching sequence.
Right.
I mean, less exciting, but a lot more truthful.
Way more truthful.
Yeah. So I was looking at the avoid list.
Okay.
And some of these words that they say to avoid when talking about AI really jumped out at me. Words like deceiving.
Oh, yeah.
Or manipulating.
I see why those would jump out at you.
Yeah, pretty strong words.
Yeah, those are very strong words.
With some negative baggage.
For sure, because, they imply intentionality.
Right.
A deliberate attempt to mislead.
Yeah.
Which, isn't really how AI operates right now. It's not about, some evil AI plotting to trick us.
Right. So how do we explain those situations where it feels like AI is leading us astray without resorting to these, intention-heavy words?
So it's about describing what actually happened.
Right.
So, for example,
okay,
let's say an AI-powered medical diagnosis tool gave an inaccurate result.
Okay.
Instead of saying, the AI deceived me.
Right.
You could say, the AI, based on the data it was provided, generated a diagnosis that turned out to be incorrect.
Yeah. It's like the AI is a tool.
Right.
And sometimes the tool can give us faulty results, just like
a hammer.
Any other tool.
Can miss the nail.
Exactly.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's intentionally trying to, mess with us.
No, it's not trying to mess with us.
So this document is advocating for a move toward neutral language.
It is.
Sticking to the facts of what the AI did without assigning human-like motives.
It is.
Okay, so I'm also seeing here they say constructing is preferred to creating.
Right. It's
subtle.
It is.
But I get it.
Yeah.
Creating implies a level of originality.
Yeah.
That's different from how AI actually works.
Exactly. It's more like taking existing data and assembling it in a novel way, which is more constructing than pure creation.
I think this is really important because this isn't just about semantics.
Right.
How we talk about AI has a real impact.
It does.
If we keep using this humanizing language,
yeah,
we risk fueling these misconceptions and fears that aren't really grounded in reality.
Absolutely. It shapes public perception. I mean, imagine, headlines screaming about AI deceiving the public.
Right.
I mean, that kind of language leads to fear and distrust.
Right.
It could hinder the development of really beneficial AI applications.
And on the flip side, if we hype up AI as this, super intelligent entity,
right,
we create these unrealistic expectations.
Totally.
People might start thinking that AI is this magic solution to all of our problems.
Well, which it's not.
Which it's not. And then, that sets us up for disappointment.
Of course. Yeah.
Disillusionment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, has implications for how we regulate AI.
Absolutely. How do you regulate something that can think and feel?
Right. Is it a smart entity that can think and feel?
Right.
Or is it a powerful tool that needs careful guidelines,
right,
oversight.
Exactly.
The language that we use influences those decisions.
Very much so.
So it sounds like we need to be way more mindful of the language that we use when we're discussing AI.
We do. It starts with awareness.
Okay.
When you come across information about AI,
yeah,
pay attention to the language.
Mm-hmm.
Is it reflecting the technology, or is it trying to humanize something that is fundamentally different?
So it's about being a more critical consumer of information.
Exactly.
Not getting swept up in the hype or the fear-mongering.
Yes, being more discerning.
So the next time you hear someone talking about AI, take a moment to think about the words that they're using.
Absolutely.
Are they painting an accurate picture?
Think about it.
Or are they projecting human qualities onto something that doesn't quite fit that mold?
Because the language we use to describe AI today might very well shape the future of this technology.
It's really interesting food for thought.
It is.
Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
Of course.
I think it's really important that we all kind of pay attention to these subtle cues in language.
Absolutely.
When we're thinking about AI.
It's going to be really important going forward.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody next time.
See you then.
For another deep dive.
All right. Bye. Bye.
Bye.